What's up, everybody? It's Jared with Capture the Magic, and today we are going to do a review of Stranger Things, and I am joined by my lovely wife, Jamie. So, Jamie, how you doing?
Hi, good. How are you?
I'm good. So, Jamie, she shows up on this channel from time to time. If you want to see more of Jamie, you can go over to CTM Podcast over on YouTube. That's where we have our podcast channel over there. But we both have been watching Stranger Things.
Yes.
And obviously the finale. But we did want to talk about this because we have some thoughts. So what we'll do is we'll go through real quick like what happened, and then we'll go into what we thought about it, essentially,
Okay.
and then, talk about some things beyond there. So obviously, just right now, there will be some spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, if you plan on seeing it, you probably don't want to watch this review because we're going to talk about a lot of spoilery things undoubtedly. So just put that little warning out there before we get into it. So before we get into what we thought about it, we'll do a quick surmise of what happened. So Jamie, kind of rough draft here. What happened in the finale, and then we'll get into kind of what we thought about it and everything.
Okay, so we left off episode 7. They are getting ready to go into their plan, to execute the plan to try to defeat Henry, Vecna, and the Mind Flayer to stop the Abyss from collapsing the Upside Down and basically making it one world. I think I'm understanding that right.
I guess that was one thing I never was clear about of the physics of that, how that would work. But I think that was what they had deemed was going to happen.
Basically collapsing the wormhole, and just like the Abyss, the Upside Down, and the real world, I guess you could say it, all become one.
Right.
Okay.
Either way, bad news for Earth.
Right. So in executing that plan, you've got Hopper, Cully, and 11 trying to go into Henry's mind, and then you've got the rest of them. They go into the Abyss through the radio tower.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
The Upside Down.
In the Upside Down, yeah. So she's able to stop the Abyss from moving. It stops. They're able to climb into the Abyss, and then that was when they have to find where the kids are, basically, be able to get them out, and then then chaos ensues, and the Mind Flayer comes to life, and it's a giant spider.
Essentially, it's a
giant spider, which
Yeah.
we kind of figured because the last episode or the couple last episodes, the spider, the Mind Flayer, it looks like like a upside down spider that's molting or whatever, like he's just chilling.
I guess he was hibernating,
I guess
gathering power, I suppose.
Yeah, so they have to deal with that, and they try to like stoke it out to move it around, and then they burn it basically. And anyway, I mean, without going too much into detail with everything, they are able to kill Henry and the Mind Flayer, and everything is great.
Kind of. You also had some things going on with there were interesting parts there with Elle and 8 and Hopper in there, because there was obviously the
military gets involved at one point.
Military is always involved, apparently.
Yeah.
In the previous episode, basically 8 and 11 essentially made a suicide pact that they were going to stay in the Abyss because this would never end if they got out, because the government would always be looking for them to create more of them. So Hopper found out about this, so he's trying to get 11 to promise he wasn't going to do that. So there was some tension there. You had Vecna play some games with Hopper, which sort of messed up their plans, which made them kind of change
a little bit.
Well, they completely had to change their plans off of that. And then supposedly, 8 is killed by the military. I say supposedly because there's some questions at the very end of this as to everything that happened. Murray helps them out, gets rid of a helicopter with some C4, which I like Murray. Murray's funny. He's a good comic relief in the show. So after that, that's whenever, 8 supposedly is gone. Elle decides, I can make the leap. I can jump into the Abyss and take on Vecna head on. So that's what she does, and that's kind of what leads to the final battle and all that.
As they're exiting out of the Upside Down, because after the Upside Down, they get caught by the military, and then we have this whole thing about Elle is going to stay inside the Upside Down Abyss thing, and they put the bomb, they detonate the bomb and everything.
Right.
And so she
because Hopper and Murray have a C4 is set because the previous episode you found out above the upside down lab that's in Hawkins is a energy ball, some sort of thing up there.
Exotic matter.
That the thinking was if you have enough explosives, it would become unstable and then take out the entire upside down. So that was
Which is what happened.
That was what happened. That was timed to Prince.
Mm-hmm.
So they put a record player, and then when it got close enough, it sparked it and caused it to go. So that was like the timer that you had toward the end of it, which you knew at that point. Like they made it seem like oh, everything's good. They defeated it. Everything, they're just going to get back.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they pull back into the real world, the military jumps on them, and that's when Elle somehow, and we'll get into maybe if this is real or not, is still in the upside down, and she pulls Mike into her mind and tells him that, she has to do this, that she loves him and let her go and things. And she essentially sacrifices herself, or seemingly so that they no longer pursue her to try and create more L's, and the world, I suppose, is all good and back to normal.
Right. No more experiments on kids, no blood transfusions on pregnant women. We'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah.
And then fast forwards 18 months later, and then the kids are graduating, and we kind of get a big epilogue of what's been going on the last 18 months. Steve is a coach and a sex ed teacher. Okay.
And he seemingly is like 45 years old now.
Well, I don't know what happened there. Robin is still doing the radio station, I think.
No, she was doing a guest appearance because she was in town for the graduation.
Oh,
so she's away. That. I think they said Emerson College, which is the college for girls.
That's Nancy.
No,
Nancy's at Emerson.
No, it was Robin.
Who was Nancy at?
Robin or Nancy dropped out of school.
Oh, she said, "How's Emerson?"
Yeah, she asked,
and then she dropped out. Okay.
Well, I don't know if she was still going there. Robin's going to Emerson.
Okay. Well, Nancy was as well because they asked her, "How's Emerson?"
Okay.
I swear they asked her that.
I could have all that wrong. Either way, Nancy dropped out of school. Robin was just visiting. Okay. And then you have Jonathan, who they want you to know that he's a filmmaker now. And they go way out of their way to make you know, like, yes, he's making movies.
Gotcha.
Apparently, he's making an anti-capitalist horror movie that they made multiple. Yeah, they talked about that a lot. So.
I forgot. They said Nancy got a job.
She's a reporter.
That's right.
So it comes full circle because that's what she was doing in, I think, season 2 or season 3.
I think so.
Season 2 and 3 run together for me.
It does run together. So they have a nice little scene on the roof and everything. And then the rest of the kids, let's see. Hopper's the sheriff, chief of police.
He's the sheriff. He's the chief of police again.
Okay. Let's see. Who am I missing?
Well, he and Joyce, they get engaged.
Joyce get engaged. I forgot about that.
And then they Hopper alludes to he's going to take a job in Montauk, which is actually kind of interesting because the show originally was going to be called Montauk.
Right.
And Montauk, if you don't know about Montauk, it is a place where there's a lot of folklore or conspiracy theories about it. So Montauk alleges that there were a series of U.S. sponsored projects and experiments that went on. A lot of weird. Think X-Files, essentially.
Okay.
So the idea potentially of, and I will say, if they're going to do a spinoff of any show, Hopper in Montauk without the children, just investigating like those types of things, like extraterrestrial things or weird happenings. That is interesting to me, I will say.
Okay.
But they allude to that. Theirs was actually pretty short for theirs. They're basically in a restaurant. They get
it was. It was pretty short.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. And then the 5 of the rest of the kids are playing Dungeons and Dragons instead of going to a high school party.
So, well, they had the graduation, and they had a pretty good scene with Mike and Hopper because Mike having a hard time moving on. Hopper gives him some advice. They have the graduation. Kind of a shout out to Eddie from Dustin, kind of doing all the things that he did at the end of his speech is all the things Eddie said he was going to do. Mm-hmm. Eventually, like flip off the principal, all these things like that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they end the show with them playing a game of Dungeons and Dragons, and they all put their books away, and then they go up the staircase, and it's emotional. But during the ending of the game, Mike like they end it. It was kind of whatever. It was kind of a whatever happened in the story. And then Max says basically like, well, that's kind of lame, which is kind of, I think a little bit of like the audience saying like, well, what the heck? That's it. There's nothing else to this. She's like, I thought you were a storyteller. And he goes on to kind of tell each of them what their lives are going to be like. So you're kind of getting a little bit of an, like how they end up.
Yeah.
Even though it's through the eyes of what Mike just says is going to happen. And then he also alludes to the fact that, and they have a little flashbacks like during the graduation. Mike looks at the speakers. He's kind of piecing it together that Elle may not have actually sacrificed herself, potentially. Mm-hmm. And then he comes to the end of it saying that the mage is sneaky, just as being Elle, and she is perhaps where they talked about a place with 3 waterfalls. So they're alluding to the fact that she may still be alive and that she just did an illusion with 8 to be able to escape, essentially. And we'll go more into specifics as we have some issues with some of this stuff. Yeah. So, but that's kind of how it wraps up.
Okay.
And kind of wraps up a little ambiguous. They also show whenever Mike's talking about it, Elle's fingertips. They kind of had some of that during 8 when 8 would project things. You could see a little bit of like, it's almost like flickering. Mm-hmm. And they show Elle's hands sort of flickering when she's in that area. So they're alluding to that. But apparently the Duffer Brothers say it's kind of up to interpretation. They haven't said one way or the other what's happened here. So
yeah. And then just by the way, that Holly and her friends come down and start playing Dungeons and Dragons, and it's like, oh, they're taking their place and they're gonna have their own adventures and yada yada.
Right. The kind of a passing of the torch, if you will. Yeah. And all the kids that were taken by Vecna are like now friends.
Wouldn't you be?
Well, one would think. You went through some stuff. Yeah. Also, Joyce randomly was in there when they went into the abyss and chopped off Vecna's head with an axe that she apparently had.
And got to say the one F word in the whole show.
True. And every strike of Vecna's head was, you had a flashback to all the people that were killed by the Upside Down and things of that nature. So it ends with Vecna's head gone.
Right.
So he's definitely gone at this point. So yeah. All right, so that's kind of the a quick summary there. Obviously, that's not everything that happened, but just kind of gives you to where we're working from here. So, what did you think about the show as a whole and like the finale?
Going into season 5, obviously they've had 3 years to do this, and you're thinking, okay, this season's going to be awesome. It's their swan song. They're getting ready to go out with a bang, right? So season 5, part 1. It was good. Or volume 1, I guess I called it. Volume 2, not so great. And then the finale was, I'm just going to say, okay. I'm going to say it was okay.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it. I did not love it. I think that if they played it safe.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
They're playing everything safe. And that couldn't be more evident than the fact that they didn't kill anybody. Nobody died. We figured it was going to be this horrible thing. They kept in interviews saying this is going to be a dark Christmas for you guys, and pain. It's going to be just a bloodbath and all this stuff. I'm like, well, I didn't really get that.
Well, I guess you could interpret it where it depending on how you come away from the finale, you had 8 and 11 potentially die.
Right.
But then there's also the scenario in which I suppose 8 either way did die.
She did.
But she was the character.
She knew she was going to.
Right. But she's also the character that literally the least liked character out of the whole show, I would say. I think from season 3 when she randomly was, they had her become part of the story.
Yeah.
Season 5, I think, is such a drastic change from 4. 4 was really good. It wasn't as good as season 1, but 4 was really good. But season 4, you had Eddie and you had Brenner, which Brenner became a very... At first, when he came back, I was like, what is he doing back? And then he became a really interesting part of season 4.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And those are 2 very good actors that are not there in season 5.
Right.
So when you start season 5, you have a time jump after the events of season 4, which are like, oh man, this is all coming to a head. The Upside Down's broken through. And it's going to be crazy. And then it's like 18 months later, it's the whole town's quarantined, and they're just like putting plates over the cracks in the earth, and they're kind of going around as life is normal.
Right.
Which, except for the crew, they're doing runs down in the Upside Down and getting supplies and stuff. You have the military has a base down there.
And I'm sorry, but if your city had a giant crack of this fleshy red stuff in the middle of it, I would get the F out of there. I'm not staying.
Well, they allude to many people did. The reason Robin
Right.
is a DJ is because the guy that was the DJ fled, which
Okay.
I'm like, I would too.
That's valid. But it's like, I mean, obviously all the characters from, you know, the TV show are not going to leave because there'd be no show. But like, it was just baffling to me, honestly. It's like, why are people still there?
The behavior of the town's odd in that scenario. But yeah, see, like part 1 of season 5, it's just a lot slower. Not a lot happen. To me, it feels like a lot of season 5 is a lot of wasted time. You take a lot of time in. You have I'll call him Dirtbag Derek, which I actually kind of like him, the fat kid that ends up just like kind of being funny.
It's delightful, Derek.
Yeah. They took a bunch of time on like how they were gonna like get his family and a lot of stuff took a lot of time that I don't think needed to necessarily.
Right.
Holly is taken into the Upside Down, and Holly is Mike's younger sister, Holly and Nancy's younger sister, who becomes kind of like the main character for most of this season, which I think is an odd choice considering
it was interesting.
You're getting away from the core that kind of made the show what it was.
Can I be honest why they did that?
Why?
Well, I mean, she kind of acted as not in Will's place like in season 1, but it's like the character, you know, the characters then they were 10, 11, 12 for season 1, and she's supposed to be 10.
Right.
For this, I think they were just like, well, we'll go back to that like age group.
I think that was a way for them to try and bring it back to the younger, because now all the kids that were, which is crazy when you watch through this, it's been 10 years, only 5 seasons. Like season 1, they're just babies,
right? And
then all of a sudden, you know, season 5, of course, they're like
full-grown adults,
basically full-grown adults,
right?
So part 2 of season 5, I just felt like it was just like, what are we doing? It was just I didn't like it. I thought it was weirdly paced. There were some good moments, and obviously one of the things people took away from the penultimate episode is Will having this big coming out scene, which I would say the timing of that was odd to say the least, especially considering they've alluded to Will being gay the whole show.
Right.
So it wasn't a shock. I mean, from season 1, I mean, Mike telling him, we know you don't like girls, all these things. So the reasoning they had Will coming out, like they put it into the story of like Vecna uses your weaknesses, but I would say coming out to a group of 20 people. See, listen, I'm not gay, so I can't speak to that story of having that, but from everything I've heard, that doesn't seem like typically the way people would come out. You might come out to like a couple of people that are close to you, perhaps, but
not a room full of people with like 4 of them that have never had a conversation with you.
That and also,
like, okay,
it came after they figured out like all this stuff. They actually figured out what the Upside Down is. Which the Upside Down is this wormhole to the abyss, and Brenner had all these notes, and they figured all this stuff out. And Nancy and Jonathan, probably, in my opinion, it would have been more powerful if they would have died in that scene when Nancy decides to, Rambo Nancy decides to shoot the exotic matter, because apparently she's a redneck now. She's like, well, just shoot it. So she shoots it, and it makes all this, the matter around it be melting, apparently, which I do think is a little bit of a call out to the Philadelphia experiment. If you're unaware of that, you could look into that.
I mean, I wasn't until you told me.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, because this whole show, I mean, and we'll get into it, it kind of has a lot of stuff based on like conspiracy theories from the CIA and things like that. But the timing of it, like after all that happens, is essentially almost like D-Day. You're going into battle. You don't know if you're going to make it. Everyone may die. And then Will decides to have that moment, which was like 3 minutes long. Felt like it took 15 minutes. It was just very odd timing for that. And then I think that became a meme, and it was very odd timing, I will say. But
yeah,
you had that happen in the penultimate. And then the finale, I didn't hate it. I agree with you. It wasn't the worst thing. And this show in general, I've enjoyed this show for the most part. The finale wasn't awful, but it wasn't great. It was just kind of, I agree, it was very safe, the way in which they did it. It wrapped up some storylines. You had, most of the people had happy endings outside of, I would say, Mike and Elle, and probably Hopper to some degree. But I will say, though, there's a lot of questions that have remained that they did not answer in the finale.
Let me get my questions.
Well, and one of the things I had a big issue with was in the finale, they allude to this during, was it the penultimate, where they go through Henry's mind and you're in the cave, and the guy shoots him in the hand. Was that the penultimate, or was that the one before?
Yeah, I think it was 7.
Okay. So
No, it was 6 because that's when they got out back into the abyss or whatever they were.
Oh, that's right. Because
so
then,
6.
Then you had a moment where Holly and Max are going to escape Vecna's mind, and they decide to have a podcast mid-time.
It take 7 years.
They had a conversation that lasted for, and it's, mind you, the last time in this moment, whenever Max was trying to get out,
she missed it.
She missed it because Vecna came and got her. So you'd think there'd be a little bit of urgency here, but they take what seems like half an hour to finally decide to go through these portals. I don't know. I'd just be like, hey man, figure it out on your own. I got to go. So you had things like that in this season. It was a lot of just like weird behaviors, like timing is weird, pacing is off. Characters aren't acting like they typically have the past like 4 seasons, I would say in many cases.
Yeah.
But one of the things I had with the finale was, they in that episode where they go in, they see Henry's mind, is whenever we're assuming at that point is when he first encountered the mind flayer. We're supposed to believe. So we get some more backstory because Henry cannot go into this cave. This one place in his mind he won't go is this cave, Max figures out. Mm-hmm. So all the kids run in there as they escape Henry's mind, because you have a scene where 11 and 8 go in to rescue the kids from Henry, and they have to see that he's a monster and all these things like that. So they're escaping through the cave. Well, Henry goes in there and has to relive these memories he's not been wanting to do. So you get the backstory of how he became Vecna. Mm-hmm. And they show that there's this guy that has a briefcase. Henry ends up killing him and beats him with a rock. And then you see this rock that he touches, it becomes part of him, and that's when he becomes part of it. And then in that, the Mind Flayer says something, you see the scene where the Mind Flayer is like, come find me. And I was like, man, I want more of this. What is the Upside Down? What is the Mind Flayer? Like, how does he know about Earth? What is going on? And they did not delve any more into that.
Well, Jared, you're supposed to watch the play.
Well, and this is an annoying thing.
Because the play addresses this.
Right, and that annoys me, is a lot, and this is true. They have a play for Stranger Things that is on Broadway that apparently goes into Henry's backstory and the Upside Down, all these things. That, to me, is absolutely ludicrous to leave out major story elements from a show that most people are going to be watching the show, of course. Like, millions of people are going to be watching the show, and not this play. It's not like you can go watch this play on Netflix. You have to go see this in person. And so, like, well, it's explained in the play. That's nonsense. I think that is ridiculous. And I wanted more about I really thought they were going to delve more into what it is. And apparently the Duffer Brothers have said, like, there is going to be, I saw this on X. It was going to be, they mentioned about this. And they said that the Duffer Brothers said on how the rock in the briefcase is essential for a Stranger Things spinoff. They said the spinoff is going to delve into that and explain that, and you're going to understand it, but it's completely different mythology, so it's not a deep exploration of the Mind Flayer or anything like that. Why? I want to know more about the Mind Flayer.
Well, that's interesting.
It says it's very fresh and very new, and yes, it will answer some of those loose threads that are remaining. But I want to know more about all this stuff. I think that's an interesting part of it. And they didn't delve into it. Now, I say all that to say one of the things I think that has to be accepted about Stranger Things, it has moments where it's really good, but it's not this deep show that's going to really delve into a lot of different topics like that. Whereas I think the audience, was wanting that, but it never was what this show was. And there's a lot of theories about what it could be, but apparently they weren't going to delve into that. But for me, I wanted to know way more about the Mind Flayer, all that stuff, and we didn't get that.
Right. Yeah.
I also have a question for you.
Okay.
What happened to the Demogorgons and the Demi-Dogs running around?
That's a really, really good question, because we know that they don't live in the Upside Down. They live in the Abyss.
Right.
So they should be there, along with the bats.
Well, so the bats in season 4, that was a major thing. That almost took out Steve. It took out Eddie.
Yep.
And they had a whole plan in season 4 to how to distract the bats so they could get to Vecna.
Yep.
And the Demi-Dogs or whatever, they were, they had moments obviously in season 5, but when they're in this whole plan, they're never there. It's not even a threat.
Right.
It's never there. So I'm like, what happened to them?
It's a really good question. That's a really good question. And Also, in the Upside Down, when you this is from before. It's like when you touch the vines, you're not supposed to touch like the black vines because it would summon them to come down. And
they could. Well, they're a hive mind, so they can sense you.
Yeah. So it's like, but they were touching them and moving around like no big deal. Also, the air is fine now.
I was gonna say also in season 1, it was like the air was toxic. You had to wear a whole hazmat suit to go in there. And then since season 3 and 4, they're just walking in and out of the Upside Down without any problem.
Exactly.
It's like just going, I'm going to go to the store real quick. I got to run to the Upside Down. I'll be right back. That's kind of how it's treated. So it's not even like it's dangerous to be in there anymore. And considering the military has a base down there, and they're just totally fine.
It's like, cool. We'll just be in this wormhole. It's no big deal. No
big
deal.
Essentially.
There was another thing about the Upside Down that I had a question about. So I believe, they went to the lab specifically, Elle and Hopper and Kali, because of the tank.
Correct.
Right? And I thought in previous seasons there was no water in the Upside Down.
I don't remember specifically. It was very convenient. There was also a generator in the Upside Down. Yep. Apparently electricity works just fine. There was water in there and it was clear.
Electricity works fine.
Yeah, and there was clean water in the tank. You would assume water in the Upside Down would be like gross and murky and like swamp, but it was totally clean. So
this is the problem when I was explaining this to Jared. I used to be a really big fan of Lost, and I was explaining to him that they had a guy. He was like the part of the continuity of the show, like to make sure that everything was like where it should be, as in props or whatever. One of his main jobs was to make sure that he knew who all had a gun.
Right.
Where were all the guns? Because remember, like that show, they changed the guns a lot. I don't think this show did that well enough. I think they forgot. They're like, oh, we wrote that and we forgot. Because the whole thing about Will talking about Melvalds and the milkshake thing, like that turned out to be like, that didn't happen. There's no milkshakes there.
Well, and that was people were thinking like, oh, Will's under control of Vecna.
Right.
Because of that.
Right.
And I remember at the time thinking like, I doubt it. I just think they forgot.
Right.
And that seems to be what happened.
Love getting lost in the woods. Like, bro, that's trauma. That's trauma.
Starting to say, like, what kids, like, remember we love getting lost in the woods. Bro, you got taken in the woods. I'm guessing, first off, all these people have PTSD.
Right.
Like, they're going to need massive amounts of counseling. And I would think the last thing, if I'm Will, I would ever want to do is go into the woods.
But that's my point. My point in saying like either they just forgot and they didn't have a person going, hey, remember in this season, like you established this, this, and this. I feel like they just didn't have that. Because there's so many inconsistencies between this season and previous seasons of stuff that we thought was established that does affect the story.
Right.
So that's my issue with this. Now, I don't know if we need to go into like that complex of thinking, but along with a lot of plot holes that I think we're going to talk about in a second, like that was my main issue with this finale. I was just like well, that doesn't make any sense.
It was kind
like,
of my issue with Vecna tells Will he chose him and he took him because he was whatever. He had potential, whatever it was. Well, if you remember season 1, essentially Will dies in the Upside Down. Hopper has to resuscitate him.
Right.
And Will was just basically like almost freezing and starving to death down there.
Yeah.
So I'm not really seeing how that was part of Vecna's plan, because I think clearly when they went into season 4 is when they came up with Vecna, which I think is a good move. You put a face to the villain and it became very interesting. But you had some issues because I don't think this was the plan from the entire time. The Duffer Brothers can say whatever they want. I do not believe that they had this entire storyline in mind in season 1. I think season 1 is a very contained, good story that had a lot of nostalgia, and you had a group of kids going up against an unknown bad, kind of like a very Steven Spielberg. Like you don't see the bad guy very much. It's a lot of just tension and horror.
Absolutely.
And I think then it caught on, and it was like, oh, we're going to do more seasons of this. And then they kind of got into a hole of like, okay, what do we do here?
Right.
And
I absolutely agree. I think that's what happened. They just did not anticipate or see going forward, like, how are we going to get out of this?
Yeah.
How are we going to explain this?
So I have a list of things that were not answered.
Okay.
That were like answered.
I have more too.
Okay. So first off, I'll just say, nobody cares about Ted Wheeler.
No.
Ted Wheeler was just playing some golf in the backyard, sees that he's never seen a Demogorgon before, and he's like, I'm going to swing on this dude. And both he and his wife get slashed. They both should have died. But
Probably.
apparently Ted is fine. We see Ted in the finale. Nobody ever asked about Ted
Nope.
the entire season. Nobody's like, hey, how's dad? Not even a sideline. Hey, how's dad? Is he okay? Dad is just apparently in the hospital.
Yep.
Just totally fine. I should mention as well, you had Max come out of a coma after 2 years.
Right.
You had that happen as well, which I think she should be blind.
Right. She should be. And also, she still graduated with them.
Yeah, she was in a coma for 2 years and she still graduated. I was like,
I guess you could catch up in 18 months, I guess.
I guess. Or they're just like, you've been through a lot.
Be like, you're fine.
Yeah, more than likely.
You've had enough of life experience. You're good.
Yeah. How did the military not know what was going on at all? Like, did the military not notice that the sky is essentially falling down on the upside down? They have a base down there, and the military is constantly playing catch up, and they have no idea what's going on ever.
They were hyper focused on finding Elle and Collie, apparently.
Right, which doesn't make it, I mean...
And that leads to Linda Hamilton. What was her deal?
Dude, the girl...
Why was she so hell-bent on getting these girls?
The girl bossing in this season alone is a lot. You have Linda Hamilton, who's maybe 5'4", and I'm supposed to...
not even.
I'm supposed to believe, and she's also like 70-some odd years old.
Right.
I'm supposed to believe that she can grab a Special Forces soldier by the neck and just slam him into a wall, and the guy is terrified of her.
It's not even that. It's like, okay, this may be like your job, but like, what's your purpose for being so focused on like they did you wrong or something? Are you related to one of them? Did they kill somebody that you loved? Like I needed a reason, and there was just none. And like it just felt like there was no character development with this character at all.
Oh, there was none. Yeah.
And I'm just
you never found out she was a doctor. Other than that, you didn't find out anything about her.
She's a doctor.
And then after it all wraps up, the military is just gone.
So I'm just assuming we're just supposed to think of her as another Dr. Brenner who wants to experiment on kids, because apparently they're growing more from Collie's blood, and the pregnant women are where now?
That, I guess, is an interesting thing, because I had one of the episodes where 8 says there's a bunch of pregnant women that are being infused with Henry's blood.
Right.
Because they took a bunch of Henry's blood back in the day and trying to create more L's, essentially. But was that real, or was that something that Collie just said? Because she can create illusions. So everything that she says and does is always up to some sort of question. Because and with that in mind, their entire suicide pact plan also made no sense, because even if they took themselves out, you still have Henry's blood and these pregnant women that have been infused with it.
No, it was her blood.
Okay, well, either way, they already have it. And you have these pregnant women. So, like, was that real? And I guess they're all just gone. If the Upside Down's gone, they were just in that base. All the pregnant women that we're expecting are just done.
I guess so.
But we also don't know if that was real.
I mean, I don't know why she would lie about that. I don't know. The interviews they were doing for this finale, someone described the finale in one word. They described traitor. And I'm like, who's a traitor in the finale? Nobody.
I told you a long time ago, I never watched those interviews because I just feel like it was going to be nonsense, and I think they were.
Honestly, it makes me feel like they were just like lied to.
I think
like, I believe nothing that they told us.
I think they were just throwing people off because they just didn't want them guessing correctly.
Annoying.
So that is a question. Also, what happened to Paul Reiser's character, Dr. Owens?
I don't know.
We never got a wrap up about that.
Did he survive though?
Last time we saw him in season 4, he was handcuffed in that base in the desert.
They probably killed him.
I mean, I guess, but they never said anything about it.
Right.
Where's Derek's family? Apparently, they're still in the barn.
They're fine.
Just chilling.
I don't know.
Also, we never. What happened to Lucas's sister and the teacher? They were in that church, and then the military came in, and we never saw them again.
Saw him at the graduation.
Right, but we didn't see anything. I mean, there was all of a sudden, like, I guess they got taken by the military at that point.
So, yeah.
Also, all the kids are going through Henry's mind and have to go through that tiny hole to get out. Mm-hmm. How in the world did Derek fit through that?
I mean, Max had problems.
Max had problems.
Right.
And I remember thinking, like, oh, Derek's not going to fit through that. Apparently, he got it through just fine.
Right.
I'm not sure how. They didn't go into that. There's a lot of loose ends they didn't tie up with that. But then just a lot of the way in which you have this giant monster that they're fighting. And I will say the special effects are pretty interesting. And so essentially the Mind Flayer is almost like a Voltron suit for Vecna. He gets into it and all of a sudden he's in the Mind Flayer as part of it and it's over, whatever it can do. I feel like there should have been more of they would not have been able to outrun that thing, considering it can take one step and it's like a mile.
Right.
But they were able to outrun it. Nancy's just going full Rambo, like you haven't seen what I've seen, and just taking, shooting this thing, and obviously nobody else dies. Like all these stakes, right. Steve almost goes, he's saved. Like there's no stakes to it, but whatever. Apparently this isn't the type of show where people are going to die off. Okay, but they alluded that was going to happen, and like the fight with Vecna was a little anticlimactic because really like eventually Will, because he can tap into the hive mind, gets into Henry's mind, and then him and Elle overpower him and essentially impale him on a tooth, it looks like.
Well, that part was cool.
But I'm a little confused, unless they're just saying he was weakened, but like the entire military was shooting all sorts of guns at him when he showed up in episode 3, and it just bounced like he's Superman. Just bounce off him, nothing happens.
Right.
But when Holly and the others are shooting guns and throwing things at the Mind Flayer, it's really hurting him.
Right.
So there's a lot of power imbalances in this. I'm not really sure where Elle's powers were, because they definitely nerfed her, because a lot of the issues they were running into during the first part of season 5 would have been solved with Elle. Yep. And so they kind of nerfed her. And you had I think Hopper is the best character in the show. He was completely sidelined. They had nothing for him to do. Or Joyce. They were just there, essentially.
They were just assisting.
I mean, basically.
Yeah. But that was on purpose, I think.
I mean, it probably was. I just don't think they knew what to do with Hopper at this point.
I think that they wanted the focus to be on the kids, what the kids are going to do.
Yeah. Also, Hopper takes out a whole group of soldiers, just throughout this entire season. And they get captured by the military, and apparently nobody's in trouble, and Hopper is chief of police again.
Yep.
They don't show any of the fallout from that, which I would assume, even if you're, maybe they've come to the conclusion that you helped save the world, but I would assume there might be some things you need to clear up a little bit.
Maybe.
Because Hopper took out a bunch.
He did. And Elle did too. Dang.
Yeah, and then at the end, Elle's powers are up again. She takes on Henry, all this stuff like that. So I think there were too many characters this season.
Yeah,
way too many. I could care less about Robin and her girlfriend. I could care less about Jonathan and Nancy.
Yeah,
I don't care about what I cared about the Upside Down, the mystery with what's going on there, and then Elle and empowered beings are cool. That part's cool, and I think Will giving him powers, I was like, okay, well, at least they're giving him something to do, because he kind of didn't do anything. I mean, he kind of was just the kid that was he had been kidnapped or whatever, and he was just the kid with trauma.
Right.
So I think they could have done a lot more that had been kind of cool with Will, with powers, of maybe more Harry Potter-esque, of terms of he actually is able to do a lot more stuff because he can tap into the hive mind, but they never really delved into that too much. I mean, I guess at the very end, he was able to do it a little bit. But also, wouldn't Will, he's part of the hive mind. One would think if Vecna goes, he goes?
I would think so.
I mean, that was a big discussion point. Apparently, that's not at all. Because I think it would have been way more powerful for Will to be pulls his mom aside or whatever and says, listen, I don't know what's going to happen because I'm part of the hive mind. I think when Vecna's gone or Mind Flayer's gone, I may also end up dying, but I have to do this. That would have been really powerful as a big pivot point, or a point of we don't know what's going to happen. But it's every moment in which there was tension or oh no, is somebody going to make it? It was oh no, they're fine.
Yeah.
No problem there. Steve, when he felt I was oh, are they really going to kill off Steve like this? And nope, Jonathan saves him.
They literally did a fake out. And I was like,
yeah.
Oof.
And so that part, it felt like there were really no stakes this season.
Well, we thought there was.
Right.
Until we realized there wasn't.
Yeah. Now, I will say the little bit we did get about Henry's backstory when he's kind of reliving the memory, that was actually really good, because you do get a little bit of it. And and I thought they were going to go the route of Vecna or Henry is he's going to free himself from the Mind Flayer and help them defeat the Mind Flayer. which I was like, at the moment, and kind of when they did it, I was like, are they going to do this? And they decided not to because he says, no, I made a decision. We are one. But he's kind of like, he's kind of sad about it. Because obviously, like, he had a lot of trauma as a kid because of that whole situation or whatever it was. But
well, he was already obsessed with spiders, like, before the Mind Flayer stuff. And, like, he was already, like, tired of humans.
Right.
So, like, I think he was just always, I don't know if he's destined to do that, like, to become what he became. But I think he was also a little bit of a sociopath because he murdered that guy with a rock before any of that stuff.
I mean, he did shoot him in the hand.
I'm just saying.
I mean, listen, it's a big jump. I mean, first off, like, why did he go down there? Like, there's a lot of questions around that too. Like, what was he doing down there?
They just watched the play.
Oh, okay. I'll go to Broadway and watch the play so I can get. Yeah.
They go into all of that stuff
on principle alone. I wouldn't do that just because I'm like, I'm not going to watch your play on something you should have told me in the show.
Which also, speaking of the play, and also like Henry and Joyce knew each other.
Okay, thank you.
And that wasn't addressed at all.
Well, yeah, Henry, Joyce, and Hopper, and like Steve's dad, Mike's parents, all went to school with Henry, and it's never brought up. Like, not once did they go, "Oh yeah, Henry, I went to school with him."
Right.
Like that part to me, I never understood. Like that could have been an interesting thing to try and like they figure something out about him, but it was never even touched upon.
That's why I was like convinced at one point that they were going to do some kind of Back to the Future thing.
Well, they teased it for sure.
They didn't do any of it.
Yeah. Also, something I would have liked to have seen in this season is like, what does the outside world think about the events of Hawkins?
Right.
You could have done it with a very simple little news clip of 10 seconds, like that's on the nightly news or whatever. You don't get there's no idea of what anybody else thinks about this.
Right.
Because this would be like, I mean, if something like this happening would be like national news, even in the 80s.
Right. And why is this only happening to Hawkins?
Well, because I think Henry,
because of his connection,
is from Hawkins,
but like, why just this little city? Why wouldn't it go to the rest of the world?
I don't know. Well, and then also it's like, why
it's too much.
They also determined that the Upside Down is frozen on the date that Will was taken.
Yes,
but they never say
which was Henry's birthday,
right? But they never say why.
Do they say why?
I don't believe they ever explain why. Or like any of the stuff around. That's why it alluded to me like you might have a time travel element because apparently it was stuck in that time period.
So it's just stuck on the day that it was made.
I guess.
Okay.
And apparently Will helped create it.
I guess so.
That was other thing that was revealed, I suppose.
Right. Oh, the tunnels or whatever.
Yeah. But I mean, like I said, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't the worst ending of a show I've ever seen. A lot of questions remain. It kind of reminds me of Lost, in that you had a lot of stuff that was like built up into a lot of questions there, and the finale happens, and some get answered, but there's still a ton of stuff that isn't answered, and the ending is sort of like, it's up to you. Like even the ending with Elle, like I got to ask you, do you think that Elle is gone, or do you think she made it?
I think she made it.
I actually do too, because the other thing that doesn't make any sense about that scene is whenever this whole thing happens, they're coming out of the Upside Down. The military, they grab her. Mm-hmm. They have her holding all these kids. So like, how? And they also have those cannons that when those cannons are going, essentially it's like kryptonite.
Right.
Like to Superman, she's like she can't do anything. She just gets into a ball. She can barely move. How was she able to get to the portal without anybody seeing her? And then with those cannons going, how was she able to bring Mike into her mind? The only thing to me that makes sense is she had gotten away, which they allude to in Mike's little story.
Right.
That either Kali was shot but didn't die right away, or maybe that whole thing was an illusion by her, and that she was projecting that to them from the Upside Down. But then there's also questions about like, well, once the explosion happens, wouldn't that illusion go away?
I mean, I guess
there's some time, unless it was just something else off screen. But I think it would make a lot more sense if she was able to get away, because it doesn't make any sense how she could pull Mike into her mind with the cannons going. Because when the cannons are going, she can't do anything of her powers.
Right.
So I think it does.
That's what makes you think it did happen.
Well, and they made the point that like Mike sees the speakers and sees those cannons, and then he talks about the fingers and the flickering. I don't think they put that there just as a like, Mike's just coping. Like I feel like that's a legitimate thing there. So my whole thing is I think she probably is, because you could also do spinoffs forever of this. I mean, it's like comic books. I remember 24 did it. Jack Bauer's out of the game, and then 10 years later he gets pulled back in. So you could do spinoffs forever of this.
Right. And unfortunately, I kind of knew this ending because I had seen not rumors, but like a shooting schedule or whatever for Millie Bobby Brown in Iceland. And I was like, well, crap. that was kind of like, well, I kind of know something before I even watched the finale.
Right.
So I figured something like that was going to happen. And there happened to be waterfalls there. And I was like, oh, they mentioned waterfalls. I wonder.
Right.
But.
Well, and like, I think my issue is the finale felt like it was kind of rushed, because again, it was a whole hour of an epilogue.
Yeah.
It didn't need to be that. Like the older kids had they're on top of the radio station and being like, oh, we miss hanging out together like this. You guys never hung out, at least that we saw.
Never.
I didn't need that much of them. All these wrap-up stories, it just went on a long, long time. I would have much rather had more time in the finale of delving into the Mind Flayer, into all the stuff behind that, into Henry, versus just getting more of this epilogue stuff. I feel like you could have condensed that down a bit more, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I think there was so much wasted time the whole season of just bad pacing and just taking time to do things that didn't need to be done, that you could have used that time to explain more things to me. Yeah. So it felt like the season was slow and weirdly paced, which led to the finale, which kind of felt rushed. Like the battle with Vecna was pretty cool, but it did feel a little anticlimactic. Like it wasn't as big of a battle. It wasn't like a Thanos level fight. Like when the Avengers fought Thanos, it was like you thought they were going to lose 9 different times.
Right.
And Tony eventually like sacrificed himself, all this stuff. I thought it was going to be a fight like that. It was not really much of a fight. I mean, a few times Vecna knocked Elle down, but it was over pretty quick. It just seemed really rushed for the build-up that was alluding to Elle is going to end up fighting Vecna, and this is going to be the showdown.
Right.
I feel like that could have been and should have been a bigger battle, in that if you're going to allude to Elle dying, it should have maybe been during that fight.
Yeah.
Perhaps, but I mean, do you have any more things that you had questions about?
No, I was just kind of gonna give a final conclusion of my thoughts.
Yeah, we can do that. What do you think overall?
So, as I talked to you about this the other night, this show was not written for my age group. This is a show that's geared toward teens and young adults. We're in our 40s, and so maybe like this was the kind of show that part of the upside down stuff and the hive mind and all that stuff interested us, but that wasn't the focus for what their target audience wanted. I
mean, but I agree. The target audience was much younger, but at the same time, you can do both relationships and this sci-fi stuff, and that does. I mean, it's. To act like younger adults or young kids or whatever, teenagers aren't into sci-fi and cool things like that, I don't think that's the case. I think you can do both.
I get it. I also think, like, and I even said this too, like it felt kind of like a mashup of like a CW show and like Battlestar Galactica kind of like meshed together.
With 80s,
it was just a lot of teen angst and stuff going on, and like I know you try to like mash that together with like action and like peril and stuff that's going on behind you, and that can be kind of a hard balance, especially when you're dealing with children. But like I said, I don't think like we're the target audience, and a lot of the stuff that would appeal to teens and the youngins, the young people, wouldn't appeal to us.
Yeah.
So like I feel like sometimes we're analyzing stuff that kids wouldn't even think about.
Maybe to some level. Now that's like kind of what I wanted to say too. I think it's much more of a popcorn type show versus like this deep dive into sci-fi.
Right.
But I think they were alluding to a lot of sci-fi elements. They were kind of teasing it a lot.
I I know.
And then not delivering on it. So if that was the intention, they definitely gave you the idea that there's going to be way more of this of, like with Lost, you had the island and then like would it skip through time? It had interesting elements to it. Not everything was explained there, but it was kind of similar to this of like, what is the upside down? Like, has it always been there? And like my main question is like, okay, the mind flayer's in this other dimension. How does he even know of Earth? How does that rock get to Earth? Why does he want Henry to find him? Why does he want to why does the mind flayer want to take over Earth? You know what I mean? Like these things, I'm just like, okay, what is the motivation for these things? Like, why does it exist?
We need to watch the play because I think a lot of these questions will be answered.
I hate that. That is such a cop-out of like...
I'm just saying.
I know, but these things should have been explained in the show and not left to a Broadway play.
I absolutely agree because there's a lot of people going, what? What was that?
I just think that's...
And it's like, oh, well, if you watch the play, Stranger Things The First Shadow, you'll know what I'm talking about. I was like, well, I'm not going to go to New York or London to go watch this, so...
I mean, if you want to put it on Netflix and make it a thing on there, I'll watch it.
They should do that after it's run. After
I agree.
they're done with the run, they should do that.
But I think it's such a cop-out to say a lot of these elements that the audience was wondering about, you've put into a play. And that, by the way, the Duffer Brothers said that you wouldn't have to watch the play to understand a lot of this stuff, which obviously was not the case. Because now they're saying completely opposite. So I would just say anybody who's listening to what they were saying in interviews, I kind of said the whole time, like, I wouldn't believe anything they're saying because...
And they've lied before, too, on previous episodes and previous seasons about stuff. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Well, okay, I just remember, too, like, from season 3, when the Russians had the secret base underneath the mall.
Right.
And they knew about the Upside Down and all these things.
Mm-hmm.
They're never mentioned again.
Yeah.
Like, the Russians were never brought up yet again. Like, you would think in this scenario, like, would I mean... Obviously, the Upside Down reaches further than just Hawkins.
Right.
So why is...
that's another thing.
Was never brought up again. So one would assume the Russians would maybe help. And also, I would assume, to me, it would have made way more sense in the story that eventually the military helps you out and gets on your side because you're going to need that firepower. It was kind of silly to me that you just have these group of teenagers that apparently the only one that can use a gun is Rambo Nancy. Because even Mike's like, he can have a gun, and she gives him a flare gun. Like, the idea that this 90-pound girl is like, get behind me, we're going to war. I was like, oh, come on. Like, the girl bossing in this season alone was, like, over the top. Between Nancy and Linda Hamilton, and just, like, a lot of these characters were just, like, like, Lucas just became Max's girlfriend. A lot of the like Hopper wasn't involved much because Hopper was a lot of the like season 1 especially. Hopper's like an 80s action hero type guy, like smoking darts, getting into his car, like just shooting furs, whatever. And he had elements of it from time to time, but he was sidelined. So I think a lot of this was there could have been more balance with the girl bossing if Hopper or another character was involved more doing the typical like 80s action movie type thing. Or just having two different things do it. So what would you give? I guess what would you give the whole show as a whole, and maybe like what did you give the finale?
Ooh, the show as a whole, I give it a solid 7. As a whole, like I enjoyed watching it. I enjoyed 4 the most.
Mm-hmm. You like 4 more than 1?
I did. Okay. I did because I did like the introduction of Henry. I thought Henry as a character was very interesting.
I completely agree.
So that really drew me in. And then obviously, it's set in the 50s when he's a kid and all that stuff. And I'm a sucker for that stuff. But and then season 1, and then 2 and 3, because 3 was the mall season. I hated it so much. Anyway, so yeah, I would give it like a 7. I think it was a solid show. And, it had some things here and there that they didn't do well, but like I enjoyed watching it. You know what I mean? The finale is not going to change how I felt about the rest of the show. Okay. So that's just my thing. I know sometimes you don't think like I do.
Well, I mean, we're different people, of course. I agree. I've enjoyed this show. I think season 1 is one of the best seasons of television. I think it was tight. It was really good. Season 4, I really enjoyed. I think Eddie, I really wish they wouldn't have killed off Eddie.
Wow.
They really could have used Eddie in season 5.
He didn't want to do it anymore.
I'll be quite honest, though. I would much rather learn more about Eddie than Robin and her girlfriend or Jonathan and Nancy. I could care less about those characters.
Yeah.
Like, I would have much rather learned more about Eddie and the kid's relationship with that, and the dynamic between Eddie and Steve would have been an interesting dynamic because they were kind of opposing each other because Dustin was that could have been a cool element to bring into this season, and they all have to work together. I don't understand why they made Robin a main character. She was fine as a secondary character in like the first couple of seasons, but then
I liked her when she first.
I did
around.
too.
I was like, oh, she's cool.
She was cool in season 3, and then they made her like in her just constantly talking and over talking, and it just irritated me. I couldn't stand her when she's on the screen. I didn't care about her story, and really, the original crew barely interact with each other anymore.
Yeah.
And I felt like it became unfocused because there's too many characters involved.
Right.
That was kind of my beef there. But I would say as a whole,
what number do you give it?
like season 1 and 4 are so strong. Season 2 and 3 are and then 5, I kind of put season 5 up there with like season 2 or 3, if not even lower. I think season 5 is the worst season of the show, to be quite honest.
Oh, you think so?
I think the finale is the best episode of season 5.
Okay.
Because they just get right to the action. I would probably give it like a 6 or a 7. Okay. Like, it's enjoyable. I think if you had more seasons like 1 and 4, it might be like an 8 or a 9. And like I said, I didn't hate the show. I didn't hate the finale. There's just a lot left. But this show is definitely up my alley because, like, I love, conspiracy theories and, the Philadelphia experiment and like all these like, extraterrestrial stuff. Like, I love all that stuff. You're going to go fight a kaiju in an alternate dimension. I'm in. That's awesome stuff. But they didn't really delve into the sci-fi element of it enough for me, at least personally speaking for me. So maybe I'm wanting something out of the show that maybe other people weren't or what they intended. But yeah, I'd say somewhere around a 6 or a 7. If it was without season 5, I would probably give it more of an 8 because season 4 was so good. So it might have been closer to like an 8, 8.5, but season 5 just did not. I just think it was for all the buildup you had of season 5, all the time they had to write it and film it, all the money they had to do it. I think it was definitely underwhelming from what I think the audiences were expecting.
I really think they could have taken season 5 and cut out all of the extra fluff that they had in every episode, it seems like, and then condense it down into one like movie basically and just not do a season 5.
I mean, they could have. I mean, potentially you get way more story.
Addressed everything.
Yeah, you could have. I mean, yeah, I definitely wish they would have answered a lot more. Although I will say, if they're going to do spinoffs, a Hopper Montauk spinoff, I would watch that. That does sound pretty awesome. So I don't know if that's it. I've heard they have plans for a Hopper, maybe young Hopper story or something.
I think none of the characters in this world are involved in the spinoff.
Yeah, I think Hopper, he's my favorite character. I think David Harbour is a really solid actor. Mm-hmm. So I think Hopper was the best character, and they sidelined him a lot. And I would have liked more Hopper. I would have liked more of the core kids. I would have. There's just a lot of things that I think were just this season to me felt unfocused in many ways. A lot of wasted time. And didn't really get into a lot of the elements, I think, that were kind of a lot of the mystery, I suppose you could say, behind all of it. Mm-hmm. And by the way, the military, was just like the roving gang in season 4 that were looking for vengeance for the basketball player's girlfriend. They were basically that exact same thing in season 5.
Yep.
They're just constantly going around looking for them and eventually catching up to them. Like, it was almost a mirror of season 4 in that way. But you didn't have I did like the dynamic in season 4 where you had the good side and the bad side of the military. I thought that was interesting. That kind of created an interesting dynamic there that was completely missing in this, because I thought maybe Dr. K, Linda Hamilton, might end up kind of coming around and being like, oh, wait a minute. But she literally had nothing to her character other than, I'm a big bad and whatever. Like, it was just, there was no character development with her at all.
Right.
So I think there was a lot of missed opportunities, but is what it is. It was still an enjoyable series overall. I just would have liked a lot more out of the finale in season 5. But I mean, I can say right now, I don't really care to go watch season 5 again. I might watch certain scenes from it that are kind of cool, but I have no desire to go back and watch season 5 like at all.
No, me neither. I don't. Like, I mean, I've watched it. I'm like, I'm good. I'm going to move on to something else. Like Fallout. We need to keep watching Fallout, Jared. Yeah,
I've heard. Yeah, we've still season 2 of Fallout. I would rewatch like season 1 and 4 of Stranger Things.
Did we finish season 1
of Fallout?
Yeah.
No.
I was gonna say we only got like 1 or 2 episodes.
We have not. No, we need to catch up on that. But but no, I just want to do a review on here, and I figured since we both watched it, we can kind of talk about it all. So I think that we hit all the issues that I had with it. I think some unanswered questions, but I think that will wrap up our review of Stranger Things season 5. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel as we do lots of coverage here of theme parks, entertainment, and pop culture. And let us know in the comments what you thought about Stranger Things season 5. And do you agree with us or you disagree with us and our thoughts overall? And until next time, we will see you later.